I woke up in a story I'd read before, but this time I was the protagonist, the real heiress who'd been switched at birth. The girl who'd been bullying me at school, Victoria Whitmore, turned out to be the fake heiress. But my parents, touched by old feelings, decided to keep her as their adopted daughter. Sister, we should get along just like we did at school, shouldn't we? Victoria linked her arm through mine with a fake smile, secretly pinching me hard. Her eyes were full of warning. Are your hands chicken claws? You're pinching me to death here. I yanked my arm away. Victoria's eyes widened in embarrassment. What are you staring at? It took you guys over 10 years to figure out you raised the wrong daughter. What kind of brains were you using to make all this money? Yes, I'd transmigrated with a special ability. I could only speak my inner thoughts out loud. I'd found myself in the body of the real heiress from a novel I'd read. Victoria, who had bullied me at school, was the fake one. Too bad the original owner, who had always been submissive, would never see Victoria's mortified expression. I'd imagined 100 ways to help the original get revenge on Victoria, but my parents decided to keep Victoria as their adopted daughter out of sentiment. Victoria immediately brightened up, linking arms with me while secretly pinching me hard. Her eyes crinkled with a smile, but they were full of threats. Sister, we should get along just like we did at school, shouldn't we? Ugh, how disgusting. Not only did I think it, I said it out loud. Victoria's eyes went wide, her smile freezing on her face. She seemed shocked that someone who used to swallow her anger would dare fight back. It was pretty awkward. Why are you pinching me? Are your hands chicken claws that have to scratch at everything they see? You're pinching me to death here. My loud voice echoed through the spacious living room, along with my incredibly rude words. Victoria looked shocked first, then turned red with anger like a color palette. My adoptive parents didn't understand what was happening, but they could tell we didn't get along. They exchanged glances and tried to smooth things over with awkward laughs. Sophia, what are you saying? This is your sister. You two need to get along. As soon as they said that, I knew what my biological parents' attitude was toward Victoria. Had they grown attached to her over the years? I laughed coldly, and a thought popped into my head. I couldn't let Victoria off easy. I had to make her embarrass herself completely and gradually undermine my parents' trust in her. Great. So you're already protecting the fake one before the real daughter has even moved back home. What's next? Do I have to be her bridesmaid when she gets married? I only recognize someone born from the same womb as my sister. Right now, my mouth felt like a machine gun, firing off all my inner complaints. Well, you can't say it like that, my adoptive parents said with difficulty. And you two, what are you looking at? It took you over 10 years to figure out you raised the wrong daughter. What kind of brains were you using to make all this money? The words hung in the air, followed by complete silence. Oops, I'd gone too far. Seeing my adoptive parents' faces turn dark, I felt a twinge of worry. They wouldn't kick me out, would they? My transmigration wasn't like the scheming, calculating stories I'd imagined. Because when I transmigrated, I came with the ability to only speak my inner thoughts, and they were pretty crude thoughts at that. After that day, everyone in their social circle knew that the Whitmore family's real heiress had returned, and she was perfect in every way. If only she didn't have that mouth. The next day, I stepped out of a multi-million-dollar luxury car at the school gates, drawing everyone's attention. Well, look who's moved up in the world. The speaker was Jessica Snow, Victoria's lackey, and the ringleader of my school bullying. Jessica looked me up and down. Oh wait, I guess you have to change your last name now. Miss Whitmore certainly looks more presentable today. The original owner wasn't actually ugly, just poor, and couldn't afford nice clothes. After a proper makeover, she looked quite elegant. Nice car. Bet you've never ridden in one before, huh? country bumpkin. Jessica saw that I wasn't responding and glanced at the luxury car behind me, continuing her taunts. You're right, I haven't, I answered honestly. Someone who jumped straight into a soul-crushing corporate life after graduation couldn't possibly afford a multi-million-dollar car with a personal driver. Jessica was probably planning to mock me further, but my honesty caught her off guard. She stood there with her mouth open, unable to speak. Indeed, honesty is always the ultimate weapon. The car is nice. If you want to ride in one, tell your dad to work harder. Poor girl. As soon as I said it, Jessica's face darkened. She hadn't expected me, who used to let her bully me, to actually talk back. She trembled with anger and raised her hand to slap me. I charged at her like a bull, knocking her to the ground. What kind of savage are you? Just hitting people? You trying to be some kind of vigilante? Now, Jessica was the one fuming. If there weren't so many people around, I suspected she would have rolled on the ground in a tantrum. I walked away coolly, my rebellious soul shining like a beacon. Phew, being rude really did wonders for my mental health. Victoria didn't want to leave home with me and had arrived at school early. After my parents adopted her, she continued living in our house like before. How comfortable for her. If there were a Nobel Prize for shamelessness, she'd definitely win one. Sister, are you carsick? You don't look well. Victoria approached with a fake sweet smile, her voice artificially sugary. She was currently holding onto a tall guy's arm. He was quite handsome, but his face was completely expressionless. I stared at the guy for a few seconds, recalling the plot from the novel, and understood. Oh, so that's what this is about. I was wondering why the sun was rising in the west. Why would Victoria voluntarily talk to me? The guy next to her was Ethan Morrison, the original owner's crush. He had publicly exposed her love letter, subjecting her to even worse bullying. Why did the air suddenly smell like fake sweetness? I'm not carsick, just nauseous from seeing you two first thing in the morning. I might throw up my breakfast. My inner thoughts popped out again. Victoria froze, leaning closer to Ethan and saying sweetly, Ethan, don't be mad. My sister just speaks very directly. But Ethan wasn't angry. His ice-cold face melted, and his eyes filled with amusement. What are you laughing at? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Ethan stared at me, his smile growing wider. You're pretty interesting, Sophia. Is this some new way to get my attention? Ethan was quite handsome when he smiled, but there was something slimy about him. My mouth twitched. What a ridiculous romantic subplot. I couldn't help but voice my inner commentary. What did you say? Ethan's eyes still sparkled with amusement. Great. The handsome guy was apparently hard of hearing, too. Nothing. Just think you're pretty slimy. Makes me want to throw up even more. I smiled innocently. Oh, by the way, I just like to speak directly. Ethan finally stopped smiling, but his gaze remained fixed on me, making me uncomfortable. Sophia, stop talking nonsense. Victoria yelled at me, her fake mask finally slipping. Not calling me sister anymore? I watched her jump up and down in frustration and burst out laughing. That's fine. You're more disgusting than him anyway. Victoria was furious. Normally, she would have rushed over to slap me, but whether it was because she was afraid my parents would find out or because Ethan was watching, she forced herself to hold back. She put on a helpless, delicate act again. Ethan, look at her. Seamless transition. Master manipulator. Impressive. I gave Victoria a genuine thumbs up in my mind. I ignored the pair and headed to my seat. My seat was by the window where sunlight streamed in, making the chair surface gleam strangely. I remembered this part. Victoria had poured glue on the original owner's chair. The unsuspecting protagonist had sat down, getting her skirt torn by the strong adhesive and injuring the skin on her thigh. Such a cliché trick. Victoria was currently glued to Ethan like a piece of gum and wasn't paying attention to my situation. I switched Victoria's chair with mine. Several people saw me do it, but no one said anything. Perhaps because I was now the Whitmore family's real heiress. When the class bell rang, I was rewarded with Victoria's scream. "Sophia!" Victoria tried to stand up, but her skirt was stuck to the chair by the strong glue. She looked completely flustered. She radiated pure, crystalline stupidity. "Why are you calling me? I didn't do anything." I smiled with satisfaction. "You?" Victoria's face turned bright red, her beautiful eyes wide as she glared at me. "What, me? If you really suspect me, then check the security cameras. Let's see who actually put glue on the chair to frame someone." I met Victoria's gaze, taking in her embarrassed state. "How does it feel to sit in a pile of glue? Don't you think so, teacher?" It was class time, and Victoria's outburst had interrupted the lesson. The teacher stood awkwardly at the front, unsure how to handle the situation. Hearing my words, the teacher immediately understood and looked at Victoria with concern. "Sophia is right. When something like this happens, checking the security footage is the best solution. Yes, let's check those cameras and see exactly how our dear Victoria poured glue on my chair and then ended up sitting in it herself." Victoria clenched her fists, biting her lower lip until it turned white. "No, teacher, don't check the cameras. It would interrupt your class, which wouldn't be good. I'll handle this myself after class." "Don't say that. When something like this happens, I don't want to be wrongly accused. Teacher, please come with Victoria and me to check the cameras after class." The teacher nodded in agreement. "That's fine. We absolutely cannot let this kind of thing spread in the classroom." Victoria's whole body went rigid. She glared at me as if she wanted to devour me. I shrugged indifferently, still smiling at her. "Just wait and see." Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed someone watching me. I turned to see Ethan staring at me. He still had that expressionless ice block face, but his gaze lingered on me with unreadable emotions. I let out a quiet "tix" and rolled my eyes at him. Instead of getting angry, he smiled again. There was definitely something wrong with this guy. Victoria somehow managed to get the security footage deleted. She was back to her arrogant self, her eyes full of disdain. Whatever. We had plenty of time. This was just one incident. Midterm exams were coming up, and everyone in class was cramming. The original owner had terrible grades. She was at the bottom of the class, but I'd gotten into a top university, so these midterm exams would be a piece of cake. This was my chance to shine and show everyone what I was made of. Plus, from the novel, I knew that Victoria, who was always in the top 10 of the class, actually had terrible grades too. Victoria cheated on all her exams through various methods. According to the story, for this midterm exam, Victoria would pay off a smart student who would write the answers on tissue paper and leave them in a bathroom stall after finishing their own test. Victoria would fake stomach pain to go to the bathroom and retrieve the answers. Meanwhile, the unlucky original owner would also get stomach pain, witness Victoria cheating, and then be framed and reported to the teacher. Yeah, it was that dramatic and coincidental. This time, I was going to give Victoria a taste of her own medicine. The midterm exams proceeded smoothly to the final subject. Sure enough, Victoria raised her hand. "Teacher, my stomach hurts. Can I use the bathroom?" "You little schemer, getting stomach aches during every single exam. Did you take laxatives or what?" The teacher nodded, and Victoria left. I immediately began my performance. I slumped over my desk, clutching my stomach, even taking sharp breaths to make sure the teacher noticed my distress. "What's wrong?" The teacher came over, concerned. "Teacher, my appendicitis is acting up. It really hurts. Can you take me to the nurse's office?" The teacher discussed with the other proctor and helped me up. I hunched over, taking each step with difficulty. "Teacher, I need to use the bathroom." I said this with a pained expression, my voice barely audible. "Okay, I'll help you in. Then we'll go straight to the nurse's office." The teacher was both concerned and anxious, as if afraid I might die at any moment. Before we even got inside, we could hear Victoria and another girl talking. "Why are you so late?" The questions were hard this time. "I came as soon as I finished. Remember, don't copy everything exactly. Transfer the money tonight." Got it. Now go. I'll come out in a bit." The smart student came out just as we arrived, immediately freezing when she saw me and the teacher. Perfect. Caught red-handed. Victoria's midterm scores were all zeroed out. As for me, I looked at my name at the top of the grade posting and smiled with satisfaction. "I've still got it," I murmured to myself. "Still got it? Then how do you explain your consistently poor performance before?" It was Ethan. He appeared beside me at some point, looking at me with interest. Ethan had held the first-place position for years, but now, thanks to me, he was relegated to second place. It's called hiding one's true abilities. You wouldn't understand. I stepped away from Ethan, putting distance between us. "Sophia, I know you switched Victoria's chair that day." Ethan also stepped closer, eliminating the distance I'd created. He leaned down and whispered in my ear. "So what? It's just giving someone a taste of their own medicine." I turned to face him defiantly. After a few seconds, he pulled back. "You're different from before. Like you've become a completely different person." I felt a momentary panic, then recovered. Could it be that Ethan actually paid attention to what I was like before? "You used to always hover around me. It was hard not to notice." I was practically speechless with anger. "How do you manage to make every single thing you say sound so unpleasant?" Ethan crossed his arms, seeming to recall how the original owner used to interact with him. I realized that Ethan smiled a lot, but it wasn't genuine. It was just a habitual upturn of his lips, like a sly cat. His tone shifted. "Being too conspicuous isn't good." After saying this, Ethan had no intention of continuing our conversation and went back to the classroom. What happened next proved his words right. Someone anonymously reported that my grades were suspicious, and given my previous poor performance, it wasn't convincing. I was called to take the exam again in a separate room. I didn't mind after all. I'd switched souls, and my abilities were real. No matter how many times I took the test, my scores wouldn't fluctuate much. Afterward, the homeroom teacher held my papers from each subject, looking amazed. "Sophia, this is incredible improvement." Hey, it's just years of accumulated knowledge finally paying off. I said this with false modesty, but inside I was feeling pretty smug. Apparently, showing off felt this good. The teacher was genuinely surprised, looking at the papers over and over. I couldn't blame her. If I were in her shoes, I'd be even more shocked. A student going from bottom of the class to improving by hundreds of points. I'd be taking off my glasses to clean them multiple times, wondering if I was seeing things. "Sophia, tomorrow I need to hold a class meeting. I want you to share your study methods with everyone." The teacher finally put down the papers and grabbed my hands excitedly. What methods? I'm just coasting on old knowledge." Under the teacher's expectant gaze, I laughed awkwardly and accidentally voiced my inner thoughts again. "What old knowledge?" Nothing. "Teacher, I should go. You've worked hard." I quickly changed the subject and escaped the office. It was already completely dark outside. After such a long exam, nature called. I went to the bathroom and found myself dramatically trapped in a stall. I heard clanging sounds outside and tried pushing the door. It wouldn't open. Someone had probably blocked it from the outside. I was somewhat speechless. "Victoria, can't you come up with some new tricks?" I shouted toward the outside. The noisy sounds suddenly stopped. After a second or two, Victoria's voice came through. "How did you know it was me?" Was her surprise genuine? How did someone with this level of intelligence become the villain in the book and manage to bully the original owner so thoroughly? "Please, who else would it be?" "Humph. Sophia, don't get too cocky. You'll always just be my stepping stone." I could practically imagine Victoria gritting her teeth. Well, at least she didn't do something as cliché as pouring a bucket of water on me from above like in TV dramas. Just as I thought this, a bucket of water poured down from above, soaking me completely. Damn. "Victoria, I'm going to get you when I get out of here." "How does that feel? You're staying in there tonight." Victoria said this, and I heard her footsteps fading away. Hey, don't leave." I tried ramming the door, but Victoria had blocked it with something solid. My arm hurt from the impact, but the door didn't budge. "Hello? Is anyone there?" Silence. At this rate, I'd lose my voice from shouting and still have no one come. I was soaked and cold. Spending the night in a bathroom would definitely give me a cold by tomorrow. Better to rely on myself than others. I climbed onto the toilet, then up the tile wall of the stall, and made it over the top. Before I could steady myself, I suddenly found myself face to face with someone. I was so startled I almost fell. "Ethan, what the hell are you doing in the girls' bathroom?" A shadowy figure stood there in the dark. For a moment, my materialist worldview nearly crumbled. I thought it was some kind of ghost. I just heard someone calling for help in the bathroom and came to check. Ethan had his backpack slung over one shoulder. It was so late, and he still wasn't going home. Seemed like he'd come specifically to watch my embarrassment. Like I said, don't be too conspicuous. He opened his arms toward me. "All right, jump. I'll catch you." "Can't you just remove whatever's blocking the door?" I looked at him like he was an idiot. "Even if I remove it, you'd still have to jump down." He looked at me the same way. Fair point. It wasn't actually that high, maybe about 8 feet, but I was still scared. But seeing Ethan's smug expression, my rebellious streak kicked in. I took a deep breath, turned around to steady myself, prepared to jump, and yelled at Ethan, "Move! I don't need you to catch me. Hey!" The moment I jumped, I regretted it. But Ethan didn't move. Instead, he quickly rushed forward to catch me. The result was that I broke my leg and he broke his arm. We both sucked in sharp breaths from the pain. I struggled to get off him and saw Ethan's face showing rare annoyance. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. My laughter echoed throughout the bathroom. Ethan's expression grew worse. "Is it that funny?" "Haha, of course it is. Look how pathetic you are. You usually act so high and mighty." Well, it wasn't completely unlucky. At least I dragged down someone annoying with me. Do I usually act pretentious? Seeing how serious Ethan was about this, he probably genuinely didn't know he was pretentious. I straightened up, mimicking his usual expression to enlighten him. "Is this some new way to get my attention?" Ethan froze for a moment. Then his earlobes turned red. He awkwardly got up from the ground and threw his jacket at me. "Let's go." I looked at his embarrassed expression and burst out laughing again. I didn't refuse his jacket, though. Since I was soaked and cold, women should look out for themselves. Let the guys suffer a bit. Late at night, a limping girl and a guy with a broken arm both showed up at the hospital emergency room. "How did this happen to you two?" The doctor looked up at us and asked. "He was bullying me at school and broke my leg, so I had to fight back and broke his arm." I said this while hanging my head pitifully. "Ethan, how could you do such a thing? Young people should focus on studying and caring for their classmates. How can you bully others, especially a female student? You'll never find a wife acting like this." The doctor believed me and gave Ethan a lecture, trying to guide him back to the right path. He even used extra force when setting Ethan's arm, making him grunt in pain. I never realized you were so mischievous before, Ethan said as we left the hospital, flexing his arm. Girls mature at 18. I smiled back at him. When I got home, my adoptive parents rushed up to me anxiously. Sophia, where have you been? We were so worried we almost called the police. Victoria also came over. Though surprised, she still pretended to be concerned. Sister, why are you so late coming home? Thanks for caring, sister. It's all thanks to my dear sister's kindness. My mother noticed my wet uniform underneath. Sophia, why are your clothes all wet? Someone played a prank and locked me in the school bathroom, then poured a bucket of water on me from above. I said this casually, while Victoria could barely contain her smugness. How could someone be so cruel? My mother was indignant. Sophia, how did you get out in the end? This can't just be ignored. Your mother and I will go to the school tomorrow. My father looked stern. Let Sophia take a shower first so she doesn't catch cold. I set down my backpack. Though I was speaking to my parents, I smiled sweetly at Victoria. A classmate named Ethan Morrison helped me out. This jacket is his. Victoria's expression went from sunny to stormy, her eyes full of disbelief. I'm going to shower now. I really have to thank you for this, sister. I emphasized the word sister heavily, while Victoria stared at me as if she wanted to snatch the jacket away. She probably never expected that her scheme would accidentally create an opportunity for her crush and her rival to spend time together. I should wash the jacket carefully and thank him properly tomorrow. Taking the green tea's path leaves the green tea with nowhere to go. After I showered, I saw Victoria waiting in the hallway, probably plotting something. With just the two of us there, Victoria dropped her obedient act and returned to her naturally sour expression. Stop pestering Ethan. You're not worthy of him. Excuse me. Are you glitching? What makes him so special? Is he gold-plated or something? If I'm not worthy, then you are. Sophia, stop being so glib with me. Victoria stamped her foot angrily. I think you're the one who can't tell right from wrong, still living in a dream. I'm a Whitmore now, the real heiress of the Whitmore family, while you're the knockoff who stole someone else's life for over 10 years. I'm a victim too. The spacious living room was decorated luxuriously, with a crystal chandelier casting soft light. Victoria's eyes were red, as if she had endless grievances. Her clenched fists trembled slightly. I shrugged. Who isn't? Move. I want to go to my room and sleep. You can keep thinking about your victim theory. Victoria was indeed a victim of this whole mess, but that wasn't an excuse for her to bully the original Sophia. Victoria was extremely selfish. Even though she was the fake heiress, the Whitmore family hadn't abandoned her and let her continue enjoying the treatment of a real heiress. But instead of stopping her bullying of Sophia, she actually tried to drive away the real daughter who had finally been found. Really quite stupid. The next day, my adoptive parents came to school and, with a grand gesture, donated a whole building. They also asked all the teachers to take special care of me. The principal was overjoyed. After learning that I'd been locked in a bathroom the night before, he decided to thoroughly investigate the matter and give my parents and me a proper explanation. This was my first taste of what it meant to be obscenely wealthy. Victoria stood to the side, silent, lost in thought. Mr. and Mrs. Whitmore, let me show you around the school. Our school has always had excellent discipline. These kinds of incidents rarely happen. We'll definitely manage better in the future. The principal showed my parents around while explaining the school's various buildings. My parents nodded seriously with stern expressions. Sophia has made remarkable progress this time, ranking first in her grade. She's really excellent. Only when this was mentioned did my mother's icy expression begin to thaw. She looked pleased and proud, patting my head. Sophia, you're amazing. Tell Mom what you want as a reward. I thought for a moment. Mom, I don't want anything right now. My father also lost his stern demeanor, looking at me kindly. Sophia, don't be shy with us. Teacher, how did Victoria do this time? As soon as my mother asked this, Victoria visibly tensed up. The principal obviously knew about Victoria's cheating incident and looked troubled. Well, since he didn't want to say it, I would. I cleared my throat. She cheated, bought answers from someone, got 0 points. Sophia! Victoria gritted her teeth, her beautiful eyes full of hatred. What? I'm telling the truth. Cheating is wrong, and we should all work together to stop it. Sister, I'll help you overcome this bad habit. You'd be hard-pressed to find such a good sister anywhere else. Victoria had always maintained an image of being sweet, obedient, and academically excellent in the Whitmore household. This sudden fall from grace was so dramatic that not only was she unprepared, but my parents were also shocked. Victoria, is this true? My mother asked sternly. No matter how Victoria tried to spin it, this was an established fact. So my dear sister hung her head, blushed, and nodded in front of everyone. You've really disappointed me. The disappointment and frustration in my father's eyes were impossible to hide, making Victoria hang her head even lower. I watched this drama unfold with great entertainment. Victoria took advantage of a moment when my parents turned around to glare at me with red eyes. I glared right back. On the way home from school, someone unexpected stopped me. It was Jessica Snow, Victoria's lackey. What? Wanna mock me again? I raised an eyebrow at her, but Jessica wasn't being sarcastic and sharp-tongued like before. She looked nervous, keeping her head slightly down, as if struggling to speak. If you have nothing to say, don't block my way. My driver's waiting for me. A luxury car was parked nearby, with the driver looking our way. I know you've been going against Victoria lately. I can help you. Jessica bit her lip and forced out these words. Are you kidding me? Everyone knows you and Victoria are tight. Who doesn't know that? My inner thoughts slipped out again. I need money. When she said this, I remembered the book's plot. Jessica's family was poor, and Victoria, who spent money freely, often paid her followers salaries. That's why she hung around Victoria. How would you help me? I asked. Before, when Victoria was bullying you, I recorded it once. Jessica pulled up a video. The angle was poor and the figures were blurry, but you could immediately tell who was the bully and who was the victim. Deal. I got home just as my mother was watching TV. I went over and hugged her arm. Mom, is it too late for that reward now? Faced with my affection, my mother beamed. Of course not, my precious daughter. This weekend, I want to invite classmates over for a party. Is that okay? I hung my head, letting my mother's gentle hand stroke my hair. I don't get along well with my classmates, and I don't have any friends. My mother's heart ached when she heard this, her voice full of sympathy. Sweetheart, does anyone bully you at school? I was silent for a few seconds, then shook my head. But I knew my mother was already suspicious. The weekend party went ahead as planned. If it had been the old Sophia inviting everyone to a house party, probably no one would have bothered to respond. But now that I was the Whitmore family's real heiress, it was different. The living room was packed. Although Victoria didn't know what I was planning, since Ethan was also there, she dressed up beautifully and put on a smile. My parents hired professional chefs, and the long table was covered with all kinds of food and drinks. This wasn't just a party, it was a banquet. My mother was delighted, smiling as she told my classmates to make themselves at home. Ethan came over with a drink. Miss Whitmore, this is what you're wearing? I looked down at my casual athletic wear and slippers, then rolled my eyes at him. You don't understand. This is called I'm so rich I throw banquets whenever I feel like it style. Ethan burst out laughing. Victoria wore a red cocktail dress with perfect makeup and high heels. She usually wouldn't hang around me, but since Ethan was here, there's no one here worth dressing up for, but she does. I glanced at Victoria and gave Ethan a meaningful smile. You two have fun chatting. I turned and went upstairs. Is it ready? Jessica nodded, holding a USB drive. Here, payment. I handed her a card. A few tens of thousands. She took it and hesitantly said, "Thank you. Having money really can make devils push the millstone. Never thought I'd hear you say thank you." Jessica's face darkened, as if she wanted to say something, but I stopped her. Forget it. Don't apologize. Let's just pretend today never happened. Go downstairs. What good would an apology do? The real Sophia would never hear it anyway. I went downstairs after Jessica, gathering everyone to watch a movie in the second-floor theater room. Sophia, you have a movie theater too? Talk about loaded. My classmates chattered excitedly as they headed upstairs. I put my arms around my parents' shoulders. Mom, Dad, come watch with me. We've never watched a movie together. How could they refuse after I said that? Sister, are you coming too? It was a question, not an invitation. This made Victoria seem like an outsider. She could only bite her lip. Of course. The movie started. Shaky camera work, dim lighting, blurry figures, and barely audible cursing. Is this a movie? Did they put in the wrong one? Looks like the abandoned building behind our school. Isn't that Victoria and Sophia? The entire bullying incident involving the original Sophia played out in front of my parents, all my classmates, and both of us. 3 minutes into the video, my mother was crying. My father was frowning and angrily questioning Victoria. Victoria, this is how you got along with Sophia? Victoria was shaking all over, looking at me with pure hatred, as if she wanted to tear me apart. Sophia, I should have killed you then. She screamed this at me, then covered her mouth in disbelief. No, that's not right. I meant to do it. Another illogical sentence. She froze completely. Oh, this expression looked so familiar. I thought about my transmigration ability to only speak inner thoughts. Had it transferred to Victoria? The next second, Victoria's words confirmed my suspicion. I shouldn't have just locked you in the bathroom. I should have dragged you to an alley and beaten you up. She covered her mouth again in shock. My father couldn't listen anymore. Victoria, we treated you well. I can't believe we raised such a monster for over 10 years. Pack your things and get out. Just as my father finished speaking, Victoria somehow grabbed a wine bottle and charged at me. This is all your fault. This wasn't something I'd anticipated. I could only raise my arms to protect my head. But the expected pain didn't come with Victoria's crazed screaming. Ethan had pulled me into his arms, shielding me. Hospital. Ethan lay in the hospital bed with bandages wrapped around his head, looking pale and weak. How are you feeling? I set a fruit basket on the nearby table. Victoria had spent a few days in jail for assault, been kicked out by my parents, and forced to transfer schools under pressure. I get headaches sometimes, Ethan answered honestly, then asked, Victoria hasn't come looking for you, has she? I shook my head. You need to be careful. Hearing this made me laugh. Even though you saved me once, you're still not a good person. Ethan looked confused. You're quite the forgetful one. I wrote you a love letter before, and you made it public, which led to Victoria bullying me even more. You wrote me a love letter? Ethan was genuinely shocked. His expression didn't seem fake, so I understood. Victoria had done quite a lot of things behind the scenes. Who knows? Maybe I didn't. The cicadas were chirping outside the window. I plugged Ethan's mouth with a peeled apple and murmured softly. Several weeks later, I was cleaning out the original Sophia's old belongings when I found a diary hidden under her mattress. The entries painted a much clearer picture of what had really happened. Ethan smiled at me in the hallway today. I think he might like me back. Maybe I should write him a letter. I can't believe it. Victoria intercepted my letter before Ethan could even see it. She said she was protecting me from embarrassment. But then she told everyone I'd written him this pathetic love letter. Now everyone's laughing at me. Victoria cornered me after school again. She said Ethan thinks I'm disgusting and that he personally asked her to tell me to stay away from him. But I saw him looking confused when people teased him about his secret admirer. I don't think he ever saw my letter at all. So Victoria had orchestrated everything. She'd intercepted the love letter, spread rumors about it, and probably even lied to Ethan about me being obsessed with him. No wonder he'd seemed genuinely surprised when I mentioned the letter at the hospital. The diary revealed so much more. Victoria's systematic campaign of emotional manipulation, the way she'd turned other students against the original Sophia, how she'd convinced my parents that Sophia was troubled and acting out whenever they'd started to notice something was wrong. The original Sophia had been completely isolated, with Victoria as her only friend and her worst enemy. I felt a surge of anger for the girl whose life I'd inherited. She'd deserved so much better. A month later, things had settled into a new rhythm. My grades remained at the top of the class, much to everyone's amazement. The bullying had completely stopped, not just because Victoria was gone, but because I was now someone people respected rather than feared to be associated with. Ethan and I had developed an odd friendship. He'd grown less pretentious and more genuine, though he still had that sly smile that made me roll my eyes. You know, he said one day as we walked out of school together, I never got to read that letter you supposedly wrote me. Good thing, too. The original Sophia had terrible handwriting. The original Sophia? I froze. Had I really just said that out loud? I mean, the old me. Before I learned to stand up for myself. Ethan studied my face carefully. Sometimes I wonder if you really are the same person. People change, I said simply. Sometimes it takes a shock to make you realize you deserve better. He nodded slowly. Well, I like this version better. She's much more interesting. Even with the mouth? Especially with the mouth. As we reached the parking area where my driver waited, Ethan hesitated. Sophia? Yeah? If you ever want to write me another letter, I promise I'll actually read it this time. I felt my cheeks warm. We'll see, Morrison. We'll see. Epilogue. 6 months later. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, getting ready for junior prom. My parents had insisted on hiring a professional stylist, and for once, I hadn't argued. The girl looking back at me bore little resemblance to the broken, bullied Sophia from months ago. Sophia, your date is here, my mother called from downstairs. Coming. I'd never thought I'd go to prom with Ethan Morrison, but life had a funny way of surprising you. When he'd asked me 2 weeks ago, he'd done it with that characteristic smirk, saying, I figure I owe you at least one proper date after all the drama. It's not a date, I'd corrected him. It's a social obligation. We'll see about that. Now, walking down the stairs in a midnight blue gown that my mother had insisted brought out my eyes, I had to admit that maybe, just maybe, it was a little bit of a date. Ethan waited at the bottom of the stairs in a perfectly fitted tuxedo. And for once, his smile looked completely genuine. Not bad, Whitmore. You clean up nice. Same to you, Morrison. Try not to step on my dress. No promises. My parents took about 100 photos, with my mother crying, happy tears, and my father threatening Ethan with bodily harm if he didn't have me home by midnight. As we drove to the school, Ethan glanced over at me. Any regrets? About what? About how everything turned out, the family drama, Victoria, all of it. I thought about the original Sophia, about the girl who'd written those heartbroken diary entries and dreamed of a day when someone would see her worth, about how her story had ended and how mine was just beginning. No, I said finally, no regrets. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is discovering you're stronger than you ever knew, even if it takes a dramatic revelation and a few broken bones to get there. I laughed, even then. As we pulled up to the school, transformed with twinkling lights and decorations, I realized that this was exactly where I was supposed to be. Not because of some cosmic plan or destiny, but because I'd fought for it. The real heiress had finally come home. And she was ready for whatever came next. The end.